Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. I would just like to take a moment of silence because today is 9/11, and for all those people who have perished on today. It's really weird. Uh, every time this time comes around, it's like, where were you when the towers fell? Do you remember it all?
Uh, I was in elementary school, and my teacher was at the front of the room, and she was crying, and she was telling us what happened, and I didn't understand how big of a deal it was. They sent us home early, and I remember it was on every single channel getting home, and I remember being a kid. I was like, I didn't realize it was big. My parents were like, no, this is a very large thing that happened, and then the aftermath of just spending days. It was on the news.
24/7.
Yeah, 24/7, and it was it was yeah. It's a flashpoint event.
Right,
It's
of
a
course.
flashbulb. It's something that we as a nation will you. It's like you. It's a memory that like sears into your memory, and you you feel a need to know where you were.
Right, it's like,
It's like if someone asked you where you were, where when your parent died, and you didn't
right,
know the right answer, you would feel horrible.
right.
I didn't come up with that term. That's a term that scientists have been using for a while. But yeah, yeah, I think most of us remember.
The only reason I was two at the time, and the only reason why I know where I was at was because my mother told me. Uh, Granted, she was a high school teacher, so she was sent home early as well. And she when she got to the nursery that I was at, it was Little Red Hen. Shout out to Little Red Hen as a daycare. However, my mother was pissed off because I had gotten bitten again by the same child, and nothing had been done. But that's the only reason why I remember 9/11, or I know where I was at. Rather, I don't remember it at all.
Obviously, you don't have distinct memories from being two.
No, listen. I know I was a dumb kid. What do you want? But harrowing experience for sure to see it all the reruns. Um, and for those of you who have loved ones and everything that have died through that, our condolences. Today, our special guest is Caleb Stelle. Caleb Stelle, he is from, well, in addition to being a tenured orchestra teacher at Central Dauphin School District, Caleb has served as a violin masterclass instructor and chamber strings coach for Messiah's College's orchestra camp as an artist in resident for Jump Street, PA, and Council on the Arts. Caleb studies violin under Peter Sirotin, a concertmaster for Harrisburg Symphony, and has performed with the York Symphony, Shenandoah Summer Music Theatre, the National Christian Choir, Totem Pole Playhouse, the Williamsport Live United in Music Pops Orchestra with the Broadway's Michael Cavanaugh, Allenberry Playhouse, and Open Stage of Harrisburg. He studies jazz improv under Grammy nominated pianist Kirk Reese and has collaborated with local bands Great Northeast, Rascal Revival, and Seasons. In January 2019, his playing was featured in the Lifetime Channel reality wedding TV show Married at First Sight. In his spare time, he runs C-Style Music at cstellmusic.com. You can find that. A music contracting business that provides a plethora of music groups for weddings, country clubs, political events, and parties throughout Central PA. Caleb holds a Master of Music in Orchestra Conducting from Messiah University, Romans 1:16.
Which you will not make me quote verbatim.
You can find him at his website, cstellmusic.com. That's CSTLLE music.com.
CSTELLE.
Is that not what I said?
You said one L.
Oh. It's the same thing, what he said. Or Facebook, C-Style Music, Wedding and Events. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling good. Yeah. Uh, it's a rainy day, but it's nice to be inside.
And you know what a rainy day means? It means a cool week.
That's true. Oh my gosh, for sure. My house that I used to live in, we did not have any central air. So we had a bunch of window units, and I mean, it was a 100-year-old house, so there was no central air. That was an afterthought, but yeah, it's nice to have a cool week. I don't handle the heat very well.
Oh, me neither. So tell me, where did music all start for you?
So I guess a lot of it has to do with my upbringing. I am a pastor's kid, so I was raised with music in the church. My parents were super supportive. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for supporting me in all the musical endeavors. I sang in church, and then I learned the violin. The violin was an interesting choice. So my parents asked me, they were like, do you want to take piano lessons? And my response was, no, I want to learn the violin. Now, the real reason I wanted to learn the violin was there was this one girl in our youth group who was like, I'm the best in the world because I play the violin and I'm brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I need to show that girl up, obviously. And she needs to take her down a peg.
Yeah.
So that was why I chose the violin, out of spite.
Make her humble.
Which is,
before the Lord.
Yeah, probably wasn't my most, but it was a small decision, and I look back and I'm very glad that that's the decision I made. We actually took lessons from the same teacher, and she would compare me to him, and that was not healthy. I do not recommend that. And then I got a different teacher who I was with for a long time. And then I started studying from one of the professors at the university at Youngstown, because I'm from Western PA. I'm not from this side of the state. And then I ended up going to Messiah for music ed. And then I got a job at Lower Dauphin. Now I'm at Central Dauphin. And, I got relocated to Central PA. So that's where it starts, basically within the church. I think that's where a lot of musicians actually start, because it's one of the safest places to perform. Everyone there is on your side. Everyone wants you to do well, and even if you do awful, they're gonna say that was wonderful.
That's fine.
All the little old ladies in the back are, that was so beautiful. So,
or it's, oh, you're so cute. Look at you.
Exactly. So I think that it's actually not just for musicians, but even people who become actors and other things through skits and stuff. The church is really one of the nourishing places where arts grow or start with a lot of young children.
So did you know from like at that point that you wanted to do music forever?
So yeah, yes. I always wanted to do music. I mean, it just became my thing. I loved listening to music. I loved being, the violinist. I loved singing. I did choir. I actually didn't really do choir until like my sophomore year of high school, and then I went to all states for that, actually. So singing and doing I was in musicals for a long time, being on stage for stuff. So that was fun. And, my whole world revolved around music. It always has. So I mean, can I picture myself doing anything else? Not really. Music is, yeah.
So, during your collegiate career, what do you think is one of the most important pieces of advice that anyone ever gave you? Or did that come before your
I would actually say some of my most important pieces of advice came after.
Oh, okay.
So in college, you're in the music world and music ed world, you're just trying to get through every day with the amount of sleep that you don't have. And you're just trying to pass your classes, you pass your juries, you're trying to navigate life. I was in a huge relationship in college that didn't end well. So I would say my real music world started out in the real world, which is actually good, because when I was in the collegiate area, I had terrible nerves, so awful nerves, and the way my nerves manifest is shaking.
That's not good.
Not good with a bow.
Not good.
Do not recommend having shaky bow.
That guy's got insane vibrato.
It would be nice if it was on my vibrato hand that the shaking happened, but it would always happen my bow arm.
He's got a killer tremolo.
Yeah. Everything was tremolo a little bit. So I think that is not me hating on collegiate. I learned so much from my teachers. I think just part of it was once I got out of that environment where music was everything all the time, and you're constantly trying to push yourself. Once I got outside, I got to like take a nice little breath and then like be able to chill a little bit and like realize to not take myself so seriously.
And people are people.
Yeah.
Right?
And so, and then recently I was diagnosed. They said I have a quiver. So if I had just, so they gave me a medicine and now it doesn't happen anymore. So, but best pieces of advice probably was something a friend told me. We were out for tacos and he is a phenomenal percussionist drummer. And he was like, when's the last time you practiced your instrument just because? And like not practicing for a gig. And I was like, oh, crud. No, I can't think of that. And that was kind of like a wake-up call. I was like, so I was like, all right, I'm going to start going through all the etudes, all the stuff, non-gig music. And then I was like, I'm going to start taking lessons again because, lifelong learning is important. And honestly, basically that one comment, I should really tell Mark that it changed the course of my life. But that really did change my mindset of, all right, okay, if I want to be serious about this and I want to do it, I need to put in the work. And like, it's actually kind of easier to put in the work when you're out in the real world because you're like in charge of it and it's so much easier to find practice time now than when you're taking multiple classes. Yeah.
Stuff that you don't schedule.
Right. And honestly, a lot of those things are very important and I use all the skills that I got from them today. But practice, man, dude, just you gotta know your craft. And I feel like taking lessons again, also having a mentor, someone you can actually keep learning from, that is super important. Peter's my teacher. He was my college teacher, took a little break. Then I reached out and now we don't have weekly lessons like college,
right, of course.
But we'll meet every, couple months. He'll give me enough to work on for a couple months. But even within our first couple lessons back after college, he like totally flipped me. And oh my gosh. I think everyone looks back at different times and they're like, oh man, I sucked then. And like, hopefully like 20 years from now, I'll look back at me now and be like, oh man, that sucked. But, having, putting in the work, getting a mentor, those are the most important things. At least when it comes to being a better musician.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend anybody find somebody that you can trust and that decently well that will be a mentor for you because they're going to push you. And here's another thing, you can't be afraid to be pushed.
No. Yeah, you can't take things personal too.
No.
There's another thing, I think it was like Julie Andrews or something. She's like, there's no room for divas. There's too much work to be done. And so I think if you can just put your pride away, you can have so many more opportunities to get better, to learn, to excel. And you just got to check your pride at the door.
So after college, you went for music ed.
So yeah, I went to college for music ed. And then I went back later for my master's in conducting. Music ed, I did violin was my main, but I also did a lot of choir stuff when I was there. Then I went and worked for Lower Dauphin School District, where I did elementary music for 2 buildings. I did the strings of 2 buildings. I did general music K through 5 at 1 building, and I did 2 choirs. I couldn't do that for the rest of my life, but I did it for like the first 4 years of teaching. Now I'm at Central Dauphin where I teach at 4 of the buildings, which seems like a lot, but all I do is strings, which is great. And I set kids up. I teach 4th and 5th grade orchestra. It's a lot. It's a lot of repetition, but it's important because I learned a lot of skills incorrect at the beginning of learning my instrument, and slowly over the course of my life, I've been correcting them. So if I can set up kids right from the get-go, I feel like I've done them a great service because they won't have to. And even if they don't, get it, the fact that when they go to the middle school teacher and the middle school teacher says, hey, fix your wrist, and they know what they need to do to fix it, like, that's all I need. Like, they just need to know what's right and what's wrong. And I'm still constantly learning because when I'm learning as a musician from my teacher, he is teaching me things that I then go and take
And do. Yep.
with my kids. The way I taught violin at the beginning of my career, which is, gosh, makes me feel old, not like 10 years ago, is very different than how I teach the violin now. So it's like very, yeah. So then I did do my master's in conducting.
What made you want to get into that?
So originally I was gonna go to Duquesne for my master's, and I got in because I wanted to work with I think his last name is Bowman, I think, or he is like a very big string pedagogy guy, and I wanted to go to get music ed and learn from him. Well, then the bill from Duquesne came.
Of course, right. Yep.
And my district was already paying a large portion, but they weren't going to pay for the whole thing. And when I started looking at that bill, I was like, I can't justify going into like more debt to just for this, like, you know, the almost again pride,
Right,
it can really hold you back. So I was like, all right, I can't do it. And unfortunately I didn't, because they actually discontinued the program shortly after. So I would have been really, really screwed, because I would have had to figure out how to finish it. It was, yeah. So then I like made a list of a bunch of different colleges, and I think I had it down to Mansfield, the Hart School, and Messiah. And I called Mansfield about their graduate program, and they were like, yeah, we're discontinuing that. And I was like, all right, well, that narrows it down. So I had it down to the Hart School, which would have been like a lot of traveling up to New England, and then Messiah. And the only thing that was holding me back from going to Messiah was because it was my undergrad.
Right.
And I was like, the people at Messiah still have more I can learn. And then the only reason I wouldn't go there is because of pride. That's a stupid reason to not go. So that's where I did my graduate work, and it was in conducting, which was awesome. I learned a lot. I don't get to use as much with elementary world, my conducting degree, but I do when I get to like lead pit orchestras and stuff. And yeah, I mean, that was very interesting. We did pedagogy classes and music theory 5, which if you can avoid doing that, I recommend.
Really? What's music theory 5 like? I only went to music level 4.
Oh gosh, it's a trial by fire kind of class. Like the first couple classes are just like review of like your theory 1, 2, 3.
I hope so.
And then like by the 4th class, you're like, harmonic analysis. Harmonic analysis of like Lacrimosa, and you're like, and then the end was like to do like a huge project on a piece of your choice. Originally, I was going to choose something like in the Romantic period by Tchaikovsky, and then my friends were like, you're being dumb. You need to choose something classical that's easy to analyze. And I was like, thank you because then I did Haydn's London Symphony, just the first movement. And so we wrote down all the chords. I analyzed the melody. You analyze the form. You write papers. And it was a long couple months, but I got through it.
Hey, that sounds a lot like my orchestration class. I absolutely hated.
I mean, it's useful. It's useful.
It's so useful.
But
it's dredging feet, man. It's pulling fingernails. It's like, if you want to know how some people are so good at what they do, it's because they pulled out all of their fingernails during college.
Yeah, and the people who are like good with that stuff, they're like really good at it. Like
really good.
People who like write or harmonize, and I do a little bit of arranging for my contracting, but not nearly to the point that like other people do. But I will say that the most useful bit of theory, and where I use the most theory, is when I have my jazz lessons. We talk a lot about theory, and I always, at first we would meet on Saturday mornings at like 8 a.m. Do not recommend taking jazz improv lessons at 8 a.m. because your brain is not ready to think about theory at that point. So now it's like 10 o'clock when we meet, and even then I still leave the lessons, and I have to record it. Like, I record my jazz lessons because I need to go back and re-listen to how Kirk talks about the chords or just the different scales. And the way jazz musicians look at scales is so much different than the way we're taught in undergrad. Like, the the quintessential scale in the jazz world is the Dorian scale, the Dorian minor. And when you're like in, undergrad, they teach you that's the scale that begins on 2.
2, yes.
And yeah, that's useful, but that doesn't help you
in context.
Well, what happens is it creates another step for your brain to do.
Right.
You're right. All right. Well, I'm in this key, but I'm starting with the root of 2. When instead you're just like, oh, it's a minor scale with a
flat 2.
Well, the third is already flat. They flat the 7th.
Flat the 7th.
Dorian,
I thought that was Mixolydian.
Now you're making me doubt myself.
I know that for a fact.
It's flat 6 then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, man. Wow, that made me look real bad on air.
No, it's good. It's good. I said flat. I said whatever. But continue.
We were talking scales. Oh, but the fact that they just look at the scales different, they don't have that step. It's just, oh yeah, that's just what we do. We just play in that scale, and that's what we just jam in there. Actually, usually when I'm teaching, when I do the orchestra camp, we'll spend like one day on improv, because like middle school and high school kids are terrified of improv, especially in the classical world. They're like, what? And I guess before they would teach them like the 1-4-5. Great, that's useful, but it's intimidating still, because you have to think about the chord changes. Where if you just jam in in E Dorian, right, that's just playing in the D major scale. Like every kid from the beginning of their string world knows how to play a D major scale. So if you're just telling them, don't play anything that isn't in D major and you'll sound good. And it gives them the opportunity to like mess around, etc. Yeah.
That's cool. Are there any other scales? When you mention different scales used in jazz, do you mean like the different modes of the scale?
Yeah, okay. Modal scales. I feel like
you meant like pentatonic or the blues.
Well, pentatonic is good, and that's the go-to for basically everything. But Dorian, Mixolydian, and then your like that is it. If you think about it, like jazz progressions, the 2-5-1, that's what it is. Dorian, Mixolydian, and then usually whatever your root. So,
That's
yeah. You watch this. Some jazz person is listening to this, and they're like, "That guy is butchering all of this stuff."
And that's okay, because those kind of people will write comments and correct you.
Oh, yay! They probably are commenting on Facebook right now.
You'll get the proper. That's always something I've always kind of done. It's like whenever I'm trying to look for an answer, I'll write the question and then give myself a completely BS answer, because people are gonna be. They're not going to go out of the way to give you the right answer, but they will sure as heck correct the wrong
answer. Oh my gosh. And to be fair, I have only been looking into the jazz stuff. Improv I've been doing for a long time.
Right.
But the jazz stuff is really within the last couple years. And I always have to like refresh myself before I sit down. And the only reason I started doing the jazz stuff with Kirk was I was doing improv with these bands, and I was at first I was like, I'm really loving this. And I'm using all the tools in my toolbox. And then you run out of tools in your toolbox, and you're like, the audience likes it, but I'm bored. Yeah, I'm bored with what I'm doing. I need some new tools to work with. So that's why I reached out to Kirk, because I wanted to do that.
Yeah, it's all fun and games when you have those toolboxes. Well, once you play them 3 times. Or 4 times.
You
or
can
5
only
times.
do a hemiola so many times of a 2/3 or a 3/2 before you're like, this isn't as cool as I thought it was.
Right. the audience will go wild.
Oh yeah.
But you're sitting there like, oh, okay.
Yeah. How many times can I do this?
Yeah. How many times can I do this before the audience understands? Oh, that's my only cool hat trick.
Yeah, and fortunately, you play enough gigs, then you go to different places that people aren't going to notice.
Of course, right.
But yeah, and I feel like the improv stuff, that, there's a lot of violinists who that terrifies them. The whole idea of like, oh, yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. You've been talking with a lot of band violinists and musicians like that. You go to the classical world, so many violinists are just like terrified of, or even just cellists, they're terrified of the idea of improv because it's not something we get taught. Really. Right. I think if your undergrad teaches you that, that's phenomenal and it's useful. But I mean, like it was supposed. I'm pretty sure it's like supposed to be part of our juries, but it never was part of our juries in college. Yeah, they're like, yeah, improv, play a Chris. I never had to do it, so I
Right.
didn't start doing any of that stuff until out in the real world post college. Not as if the college is not the real world, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, I also the way I started it was church stuff. The
Hmm.
church, was a small church plant that I went to in Hershey. So, they needed help on the worship team. So, I mean, that's where I learned how to improv over,
Prayer or whatever.
or in Christ alone,
Crystal.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Yep.
or and your standards, and then that's how I learned how to improv. It's also where I learned some of my guitar stuff
Mm.
and other instruments because it was a place that it was a safe place to experiment,
Right.
and
Yeah.
learn. And then one night, my good friend, he invited me to go with him to band practice, which was for Great Northeast, which is, we called it a lazy bluegrass band, kind of like Wilco-esque music. And that I played with that band for quite a while. Eventually kind of phased out of that band, and now I play more with Rascal Revival, which I know you've had RJ in here before. Great guy who I met on Craigslist.
It's mind-boggling to me the amount of people that I've talked to who have met on Craigslist. Because to me, Craigslist is like is not a thing, right?
Like, not anymore. Oh my gosh, yeah. But like it was yeah. Now it's all Facebook Marketplace
Right,
or
yeah.
forums or groups. But yeah, no, I had been like advertising, I think, my contracting stuff, and then I still have the email. It's like he must have wrote me like a Russian novel. It was like all this stuff about like what he wanted to do. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll come over. We'll jam." And as you've already talked about all his journey from we were a 3-piece tiny little group to now we're 6 pieces. And I really do love playing with that group because it's like a jam band. We all get to experiment. Every gig is completely different. But I'm very grateful for the things I did with Great Northeast because I learned the band world a little bit better. Because in church, no one tells you, hey, you need to be quiet. This is my turn.
Yep,
And
there's
I
no
remember, we had like a guest guitarist, like the guitarist from Happy Sally was playing with us for a while. He's like, I can't stand that violin kid. He just never stops playing. And I was like, oh, okay. So I need to learn to take turns. And actually, it's better when I take turns because then it actually makes the stuff that I play actually more important because it is a moment that I'm taking that everybody, and you learn all the nonverbal cues with each other, like, no, you do the nods or the leans, and you're like, nah, take it, man, or et cetera, that, nobody teaches you.
No,
There's no band, all right, playing with a band class 101.
no, there really should be though, because it's stuff that you gotta learn. Because if you're a deer in the headlights,
Oh, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I know I'm just playing fun stuff that sounds good over this, but I didn't know, hey, get out of the way. You'll get your moment. Here's your moment.
right? Yeah,
And that was, through the fire, you get whittled down to learning and refining and what you want to do and how you want to, sound.
and that goes for anybody who's who's in the classical realm and wants to branch out into other things. It's kind of like an orchestra, right? You have the string section, you have the horn section. There's a time where the string section plays, it plays rhythm or it plays melody, then it switches to the horn section. It's kind of like that. You don't play the entire time whatsoever. If you do, you're switching roles.
Right. Yes.
If anything,
and learning, accompaniment styles and trying to figure out things. That's where one useful thing from playing like mandolin, just, I learned about Chris Thiele, changed my life. I wanted to learn the mandolin, so I bought the mandolin. I don't play the mandolin that well, but I learned some chords on there, and it's the same strings on the violin.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's the exact same. You have G, G, D, D, A, A, E, E. So I knew like the fingerings easily. it was funny. Whenever I played it, same thing sometimes with my violin. My left hand was writing checks that my right hand couldn't cash because I had ideas. But learning to play those basic chords on the mandolin, then when it went to playing bluegrass-esque stuff, I was like, all right, I know how to play all these chords. Now I'm just gonna chunk those chords. And it helped that Great Northeast, we were a 4-piece. They're still together. I think it's like a duo right now, and they might be searching for a bass player. But it was bass, banjo, guitar, me. And the banjo player, the bass player, and I all played guitar too. So we always would just look at Joe's hands, because he was the songwriter,
right,
and we'd be able to figure out the song by just looking at his hands, which was a very useful skill.
That's another thing. If you're a part of a band, learn how to read guitar hands.
Yeah, even if it's just your basic
1-4-5,
and then just learn what the capo means, what key you're going to take it up to. And one thing that's beneficial with playing the violin is it is a movable, like you can, all right, we're going up everything. They're going up, cable 2. We can just move up a whole step. I'm doing the same stuff I would have been doing, but I'm just in second position.
The funnest thing for me as a piano player is when I said, "Oh, we're on cable 3." I'm like, "Okay, so what note are you starting first?" G. I was like, "Okay, G, A flat, B." Okay.
If you're playing a keyboard, you can just go boop boop boop, and transpose the whole.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna make it so much easier. I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just hit the transposition.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah, tips. There's actually a hysterical video if you YouTube it. It's of this organist who's playing the Messiah, and it's like right at the end. They're Hallelujah, Hallelujah, and he must have hit the transposition button because they go to hit it, and it is this god awful chord. It's hysterical, and he plays that chord, he plays the next chord, he plays the last chord, and then he hits the button and it goes into the right key, and it's so funny. You're like, well, that guy's never getting hired again.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's a genius tactic because I would have to transpose on the spot, which granted is
a skill you need to know because you never know if you're going to go to the place and they have a baby grand there and you need to know how to do it.
And to be fair, I don't think my piano has that ability either, so there's also that. That's probably why I didn't think about it. But yeah, transposing on the spot, skill you need to learn. If your piano has a transpose, even better.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But yeah, learning how to watch the guitar hands for sure has been one of the most helpful things for me. Is because I know all the basic chords. Granted, you got to realize guitar, it's either in E, it's either in G, it's either in C.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or D as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all usually fair, especially with band stuff. And if you're playing in a regular band all the time,
right,
you just learn what the song is going to sound like.
Of course, right, of course. But if you're on the spot and they throw in something on the set, you got it's only 4 keys that you really need to learn, and the chord shapes, because they're all similar keys, they overlap. It's only one.
And even if they're doing a bar chord, it still slightly resembles the chord.
In
the regular position.
And you could figure it out from there too. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard to do, and it will give you so much more room to do whatever you need to do in the moment, right? And also ear training.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hate it. I mean, I just was listening to your episode with Tony Anthony Pericini, and he's talking about the ear training stuff. And yes, I think I hated melodic dictation, which is when you take the music and then you write it down. I'm awful at that. But the being able to look at music and hear if somebody's playing a wrong note, or being able to listen to the chord structure. I irritate the crap out of my girlfriend whenever she plays music on her in the car or something, and I'll notice it's the chord progression of a different song, and then I do a mashup on the spot. My favorite is this one Jonas Brothers song that lines up perfectly with Last Christmas. And I was like, I can't be the only person who noticed this. And I Google it, and someone had already made a mashup.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, being able to actually hear and listen, that's the most important skill from that class, is being able to look at a piece of music
And hear it.
and kind of like visually hear it, and then when you play with a group, be like, something's wrong.
Right, yeah.
Let's break down this one section. You're accidentally not holding the accidental over to the
Right.
next. Or maybe there's a typo in the music, which in the musical theater world, there's lots of
There's
typos.
many typos. And many people who don't know what they're doing. Writing music they should never.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Especially if the one thing that's been beneficial of playing in bands is there's a few musicals. There's not a lot. There's some musicals that have more of a country western feel. So when I went to Totem Pole Playhouse, I played Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And that book, I mean, there are just moments where it's just they have the chords written or things like that, and
figure
like
it out.
Just figure out what you want to do. Or I played Bright Star up in Reading at Genesius Theater, and like it is literally a fiddle book. It is some solos, but then there's parts where it's like improv and it just writes the chords, or they'll like do a fill here or things like that. And if playing in bands, that has given me an advantage. There's probably more than I know, but there's only a couple people who I think I would hire to do that kind of thing. There's lots of musicians and violinists who I would hire to do lots of other stuff, and they're way better than me at that. But I think it is a valuable skill knowing how to do the kind of improv-y musical stuff. And I love playing it. It's so fun.
And you're gonna have so much fun, for sure. Moving on from improv, whatever that name is called. You also teach choir and orchestra. What is it like to go from playing to like directing?
Okay, so I did choir for 4 years, teaching elementary chorus. And it's funny because I am not the greatest piano player. And I'm saying I'm not a good piano player. I have recently been teaching myself because I think it would open up more doors for me if I was better at it. But I remember taking piano proficiency in college, passing, taking it behind my dorm, and burning the paper on fire and saying I'm never playing the piano again. And then I taught choir for 4 years.
Right.
So it was fun. It was enjoyable because I had an auditioned choir, which I know that's kind of crazy for an elementary school to have an auditioned choir. Yeah, and I did make cuts, which was
hey,
it's not an honors choir if there's 80 kids in the grade and 60 of them want to be in it.
That's fair.
I like limited it down to like 30. But working on like Carol the Bells and getting them to actually sing harmonies was really, really cool. But I knew it wasn't something that I was passionate about.
It would drive me crazy.
Choir itself, and this goes in the music world too, it's just make a sound. Now shut up. I'm going to give you a correction. Now make another sound. Now shut up. Now I'm going to give you another correct. It's just, maybe it's just when you put an instrument in someone's hand, they're just less likely to just talk the moment. You have a moment where you're doing correcting. And I feel like with choir, you're teaching a lot of skills. With instrumentalists already have a couple of those skills, like the note reading and the rhythm and stuff. Whereas with choir, you're teaching them the parts, you're teaching them the rhythm, you're teaching them listening, you're teaching them oral skills. So people who are really good choir directors, I really respect, because I know, even just from my brief experience with it, that is like its own world. And then there's like the music directors who do the musicals and stuff, who are like, I'm very blessed with most of my positions. I only usually am involved with the pit. We usually have like a vocal director who works with the actors. I collaborate with the vocal director. I come in, run the pit, I refer to it as driving the boat. Right. Because you have some control, but you can't just like change everything when you have a cast on stage and you have like 10 to 15 people in your pit. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to do this and everything's going to just move quick. It's like driving a boat. You have control, but you don't have all the control. No. I don't know where I was going with that thought, but I respect choir teachers who a lot. God bless them. And I have some very good friends who teach choir. But orchestra, I prefer working with instrumentalists. I don't like when people are like musicians, because singers are musicians. Yes. 100%. I prefer working with instrumentalists just because it's a world probably that I just feel more comfortable in because I am a violinist. Um, so now I teach orchestra with kids. It's really interesting. I mean, as I said, you learn a lot. Oh my gosh, you learn so many little, like every minuscule thing you don't think about when you're playing, you have to think about when you're teaching. From the way you hold stuff to the way they stand to the way they have carry their weight because you don't want to have them set up with bad position that then they have to deal with doctors later on in life. I mean, how many musicians do we know who have to go to physical therapy or special doctors for something, pinched nerves or things? So you just, I mean, it's a honing of a craft, and it's a place where you get to know your craft very intimately, and then you have to learn how to express it to young minds and make it exciting and make it fun, or make it a game and they don't even know they're learning. I'm fortunate that like, most of my kids are pretty like orchestra kids are a certain breed.
Yeah.
They're a little different than your band kids. Not, I mean, I love band kids because I did do band through high school. I did the low brass stuff, and so I love band stuff. But orchestra kids are a little more type A, and they're usually pretty with it. I can usually just explain it to a good chunk of them. I also have COVID happened, which resulted in me flipping my classroom. So what that means is all the basic concepts that I teach in the first couple lessons, I have videos for each concept and a website that they can, so I teach it to them or we watch it in the lesson. Then when they go home, because they're going to inevitably forget something, they can actually just go to that website, watch the same thing again so that they can get it. And then I've had parents tell me they love it because they're like, we don't know anything about teaching our kid the violin. We don't know if they're holding it right or not. So having that video, they're like, oh, I know what my kid's doing. And then eventually, you know, we don't need those anymore and we're learning note reading and stuff. But yeah, so being a teacher is a whole different set of skills that, you know, you just dive in and you learn. And if you want to get better, you put in the work to get it. I think my advisor, Dr. Dixon from college, he said, everything you learn in college is to help you get through your first year teaching. Everything after that is on you.
Yeah. That's kind of what I've heard.
And then the music directing stuff, that sprang up kind of weirdly. So as I said, I throughout high school was in musicals. I was always in the cast and singing and doing stuff like that. And I really do love performing. And what happened was I got out in the world. I actually never played in a pit orchestra until I was an adult. I had been in multiple like musicals, but I'd never played in a pit ever. And I know, kind of crazy because it's like a huge thing of what I do now. And what happened was Joe McAnulty, he is the concert master for the Central Penn Symphony, and he's the violinist in Colebrook Road.
Okay.
We met and we kind of just hit it off, and he needed a sub for Sweeney Todd at Harrisburg Theater Harrisburg. And what's funny is I had auditioned to be in Sweeney Todd, got a call back for Anthony, didn't get Anthony, got put in the chorus, realized I had a concert, had to drop out of the show, and then I got hired to sub in the pit. I walk in for that rehearsal, the music director looks at me and I'm like, yeah, just keep moving down the ladder. I'm like almost one of the leads in the chorus, now I'm in the hole. And I will tell you, Sweeney Todd is not a show that I recommend substituting for. It was kind of like trial by fire. I mean, I did not know what I was doing. I'm sure I crapped the bed multiple times throughout that, but it opened a door. And then I was able to do a few more subbing jobs. I feel like that's how everybody gets into musical theater.
Right.
Is you sub, you do a pretty good job, and then the regular isn't available that week for that run or something. But then I acted in 3 shows because I wanted to be in the show. And then what happened is the person who was in charge of Theater Harrisburg at that time, he's no longer there. He's off doing other things. he noticed, he's like, Caleb plays in the pit, but he also knows what he's doing with the actors. Let's give him an opportunity. And the first thing I ever did, everything is like trial by fire in my life, is getting thrown into something and just trying to swim.
That's sometimes the best way to learn things, for sure.
Because it's what it was a new works festival. So it was all these people submitted things, and then they were just stage productions. So, just the actor on the stage with their script in their hand, nothing memorized, which is easy to do with a play, but not with a musical, because you're still like...
You sight reading?
So but we put together basically a musical in like 28 hours and then performed it one night. So that I learned how to teach parts a little better. I used as much like computer and stuff. Like I would make rehearsal tracks and things like that, which I think is one of the best things if you're teaching vocals for a musical. Vocal tracks, you can't assume anything with actors. Some actors are phenomenal musicians who have their masters and know how to read music and probably could direct a choir better than you. And then you also sometimes have Joe Schmo who just has a great voice but doesn't know anything about reading music, but is still a phenomenal performer. So rehearsal tracks, and I learned how to do, that was a mini pit. It was literally just keyboard and cello and me, which was fun. But I learned that, and then I did company at Hershey Area Playhouse, and that was like my first experience with a big pit. And again, these are such a dumb way to do. You should not start with Sondheim as like your first musical pit gig that you're conducting. That's just like, I mean, I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot, but the guy who was playing keys for me for that show, Nick Werner, he could have done it better than I could have, but it was a really good opportunity. And I learned how to lead a group that's large, and that just, doing it, getting opportunities, now doing more stuff at Hershey, at Keystone Theatrics, Allenberry Playhouse. I did Anything Goes for them, which was fun because we had the pit on stage as like a cruise ship.
That's cool.
And then I actually did my master's like project was we did It Should Have Been You, which is like this small little jazz show. That's pretty awesome. And then I did their Christmas show, their 2019 Christmas show, which is, It's a Wonderful Life, which is an awful musical. No, it's not It's a Wonderful Life. I misspoke. I don't like It's a Wonderful Life, but that's another controversial statement for another day. It was Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only other musical written by Meredith Willson, who did Music Man. He shouldn't have written it. It's awful. It's a Christmas show. It was always, we sold a ton of tickets because it's a Christmas show, but it is not my favorite show in the world. But I love getting to run a pit, and my next opportunity to run a pit is going to be in October. We're doing the Addams Family musical at Keystone. Yeah, at Allenberry. I'll be running the pit for that one, which is fun because Halloween is my favorite holiday. My house is already decorated for Halloween, and I started like August 1st. So, that'll be fun. It's actually funny because the last show I conducted before COVID I was doing the pit for Susquehanna Township High School's musical, and they were doing the Addams Family. Our opening night was March 13th, 2020.
Oh my god.
So
it was
it was the day. So we had everything ready. These poor high school kids. We've done the whole tech week. It's the opening night, and we cancel the show. Now I will say what we did is we did a performance that Friday night with no audience, and we recorded the show so that the seniors would have something. Now that's totally not legal. You're not supposed to do that. But we were
allegedly, this happened.
Maybe we recorded it.
There's rumors.
Yeah. So that the seniors would have some sort of thing to go home with. But yeah, so that was my last show conducting, and my first show back to conducting will be that same exact show.
That's
So
another flashpoint. Where were you when?
yeah,
March
yeah,
13th?
that's very true.
Very true.
Yeah,
I know exactly where I was. We were supposed to go to Ireland that
Oh.
day and sing.
Oh.
We were supposed to go sing around in St. Patrick's Cathedral all across Ireland, our college. And the day before we were supposed to leave, March 13th was like a Thursday, wasn't it? Or
so
Thursday or Friday?
I think the 13th was the Friday, but the 12th things were already
12th
starting
things
to
were
shut
starting to shut
down
down, yeah.
because we made the decision on the 12th to not do it the next. Like that was really rough. And I mean, I had to email my musicians and be like, well, I will say I was very happy with our producer for that show. They still paid the musicians, even though they didn't play the last couple shows. Some of my musicians said, I'll only take the money for the thing I did. Some who are gigging musicians, they needed that money. And so
Of course.
I was glad. Actually, Tony Wayne was the guitarist for me for that show. So and obviously his whole world shut down too, because Dutch Apple had to close and all those other places. And then slowly but surely now the theaters are starting to open again. And, you know, I've done a lot of playing, which was actually good because I had done like 4 shows in a row conducting, and I just wanted a moment to play my violin again. It's, you know, sometimes you get like edged into these boxes that you didn't even sign up for, and you're like, I'm glad I'm in that box, but I also can do this. I also like doing these things too.
Speaking about going outside the box, your music has appeared on TV shows.
Yeah. So the Lifetime thing was super weird. As the whole do you know the premise of the show?
I don't know the premise
Okay,
of the show.
so the premise of Married at First Sight is that
I could imagine it, though.
I mean, it's in the title. So the literally they meet each other at the wedding. They get hitched. They go 2 weeks on a honeymoon, and then they like live, I think, together for like a month or 2 or 3, and then they decide whether they're going to stay together or not. And they're set up together by like a religious leader, a psychotherapist, and like something else. They do all
weird.
of it. Yeah. And it was a very strange way I got it. So I'm in a million Facebook groups. There's like call for Central PA musicians, Central PA pit musicians, and then there's ones that are based out, same concept, based out of Jersey, Philadelphia. And I think it was the Philadelphia pit musician Facebook group. And I think it's Louis Pentinelli. He's a very big contractor, actually, like nationwide. He had this post. It was very cryptic. It was like, I need musicians for a gig. There's no pay, which is usually a sign like, And he's like, but you'll be on a TV show that'll be in front of millions of people. I can't say what it is, but I can call it. So I comment on him like, I'm in the area. I'm available this Saturday. Like, what's up? He's like, I'll call you. So he calls me, explains what it is. He's like, all you got to do, you got to show up at this time. You play public domain music, and then you leave. And he's like, normally, I don't do any of this stuff, like exposure stuff. But he's like, this is one of those things that is like pretty interesting enough that I'm willing to do it. And I said, yeah, I mean, it's great when, you know, brides are looking at my contracting business and they saw that I played on a bridal TV show.
Right, of course.
But yeah, it is exactly what it is. Those people did not know each other at all. I played like a couple, like, you know, probably Canon and D, Yezu, all the standards.
Were you like on the set? Wasn't it? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I mean,
that's really
yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah. It wasn't like I played and they canned it in.
Yeah.
No, I was there, and you can see me in the episode.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've got a cool screenshot of me playing, and I think it's on Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's so cool though.
It was really cool. The guy walks down. The only thing that's interesting is they make it seem like it's seamless when they do it in the episode, but it is like this guy walked out, all the people and his guests are there, his family, her family. And everybody's like, this is weird.
Yeah, right. Because oh my gosh.
So
they're like taking breaks. Okay, we need to reset.
Well, what happened is he walks down the aisle. He stands up at the front, and then they have to wait till everything is ready to do like the bridesmaids walk in, and then the bride. But that poor guy, he's marrying a stranger, and he's standing up there for at least
in front of her family.
In front of her family for like 10 minutes. And like he introduced himself to the mother of the bride. He's like, "Hi, my name is."
Dude, that's
and he's
so
like,
wild.
It's so funny, and he's like sweating bullets up there,
right?
But he's like very personable, and you're like, I know why they chose him. He's gonna make great TV.
Right, of course, of course.
And then she came down. They got married. They exited. I went home, and then I hung out with friends that evening. Like, and the only thing they were like, you can't say anything about it until. Like it
of course,
airs. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and so that's how I got on that show. It was
just one episode.
Just one episode, and the couple is still together. I like to think because of my playing at their wedding, it was that moving.
That's at least that's good. That's good.
Yeah, they're still together. Last time I checked.
That's incredible. But you also started. You mentioned how this was good for your business. Talk about how you started that, why you started that, all that jazz.
So Stelle Music, weddings and events. I didn't know what a contractor was until I was one. So what happened was just growing up being a pastor's kid and playing the violin. I've been playing at weddings since probably like 7th or 8th grade. And whether it was at first it was just by myself, and then in college we put together like a duo and a quartet, and we would do a couple gigs, like 3 or 4 a year, and you like start making a YouTube page and other things and trying to get your name out there, and then moved over here, put together a few different groups for things for just playing for weddings or retirement parties. And I mean, when I was 22, 23, 24, I sent a million cold emails we've all been there as beginner musicians. And it's funny because now I get those emails from people like, "Hey, I'm from this and I play the flute." Well, right. Yeah. So I sent like a million cold emails. I started to build a pretty good relationship with the guy who did stuff at Liberty Forge, which is like a golf course in Mechanicsburg. He would like recommend me. And I think one of the things that I came up with pretty quickly was I had this form that I would send to the couple, and it was covered all the things I needed to know, like date, time, location, right. Indoor, outdoor, what type of musicians, what are you thinking of for music for your wedding? Because up until then, like it was very like back and forth, and you have like 30 emails from the same bride, and you're like, where is the information that I needed from that one thing? And I was like, what if we streamline it, everything gets answered right at the beginning, and then I can give them an accurate price because I actually know all the information. So that was like the first thing, and it was a Word document. That's not how I do it anymore. And so I did that for a while, and then I built a website because I just kind of wanted to build my own website. And my website at the beginning was really just like half marketing for myself, half marketing for business stuff. And when COVID hit, I made that website completely about my business and no longer about me. But I think what really happened is we had a bride who needed to reschedule, and it was on a day that I was already busy and I couldn't play it. But I had musicians and I trusted them, and I was like, I can handle this and send them out and they'll play it and they'll do a good job and that'll work. And that's where the whole contracting thing started. I just took, what I like to do is I like to make it as positive experience as it can be for the musicians, and as positive an experience as it can be for the client.
Of course.
And I am the person in the middle who makes that happen. So brides, event planners, they come to my website. They see my musicians. They see the quality that we have. We have recordings of like almost everybody. I've got bios, et cetera, et cetera. They see that. They fill out a questionnaire. It's a bit of a longer questionnaire, but there's a reason for it. Yeah. And they fill it out. I get this email. If it's a string group, like a duo, trio, quartet, I set the pricing. I send it out to them. I think Anthony Pericini was like one of the first groups that I started adding to my roster that was not a string group. That was like a was more jazz, like the Pericini trio. And I started putting them as an option, and then it just grew from there. I was like, you know what? I've got friends who are harpists. I should put them on there as well. And then what happens is I'll have all the details. I send the details to the harpist or Anthony, and they'll say, I am available that day. I'm not available that day. And they'll send me a price of what they'd want. And then I tell them, don't mark the date off. Don't do anything. I'll double check with you if they want to bite. And then I get to be the person who says, these are the prices. And there's either two options. A lot of people think they're going to haggle with you, but like when it's your wedding and stuff, people don't haggle. They really just say, I guess that's the price.
Right, yeah.
So I either hear an answer that says, yes, I'd love to do that, or they go radio silent, and I never hear from them again. And then, so I started doing that, and I leaned into the contracting business a lot when COVID happened, because I need a project. All the theaters closed. I was at home, working from home for teaching. I need a project. Idle hands are the devil's work.
Yeah.
Devil's playground, or I don't know how exactly, but I needed a project, so I leaned into that. I had already met with my Google specialist guy beforehand, but I have a friend who's a cellist, and her brother is like the Google guy. He worked for this one tech firm, and like his job was to make you pop up at the top when you when people are Googling for your thing. And I mean, it's funny because people pay him hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and we just met at his house, and I brought over pizza. And he like looked at my website, and he's like, there's a lot of good things here, but you need to do this. And he knew all this like under the hood stuff about websiting that I did it for him, and I did it, and I forgot about it, but it worked. Like I couldn't tell you how to do what he told me to do.
Right.
But I did all those things, whether it was like writing in like this code underneath stuff, and like setting up Google Analytics and things like that. Stuff that, you just don't know. And you just have to ask.
Can't find out.
You have to, you have to meet people and talk with them, and they will show you. And he was like, he's like, you need to have a Facebook page for it. I was like, I don't want a Facebook page for my business.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I was in the theater world, and like every single actress in her early 20s has a Facebook page. And I was just like, ugh, I don't want to be like advertising myself. Maybe it's just the pride thing.
Right.
But he's like, you need to have it. And he's like, and he taught me the value of reviews.
Speaking of which, if you want to help us out, please do leave a review. That is one of the best ways to help out this podcast and show it to other people. Is truth, and people might be, but it's true. It's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, leave us a review. Whether you like it or not, I don't care. Leave us a review.
If you don't like it, review it and give it a good.
Give us a good reason why it's bad. But seriously though. Review us. That's how we get more traction on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc.
Yeah, I mean, reviews are so important. Like, I think right now we're at 36 5-star reviews on Google, a good rating on Wedding Wire and Zola, and I mean, gosh, Facebook. It's crucial, especially in like the wedding business. And like I think I read a study. It's like most people will trust reviews from complete strangers.
Yeah.
But if there's it's a snowball effect. You grow a base, and like now if you Google ceremony musicians Harrisburg, now there's going to be like 3 or 4 paid advertised Google ones up the top. But then when they go down to the map and they have like the 3 that they suggest, it goes Clock Entertainment, which is a DJ company that actually uses us. And then me. So it's so
important.
It's important, and like it's so interesting. I didn't even list my business on Yahoo, but it's on Yahoo because they just data mine it from other websites. So that is part of like making it really a positive experience for the client. But then the second thing is making it a positive experience for your musicians, so that they will want to work with you and trust you. And I think what I noticed is lots of people are phenomenal musicians, but they aren't good business people.
Absolutely. 100%.
And
case in point here.
And and I am pretty good at the business side of things, but I also know what musicians need and want, and they want to know. They don't want to have to deal with talking with clients. Nope. They don't want to deal like having, because there's some, you have to deal with some, unreasonable requests.
Yes.
Is how I'll phrase it. And I'm okay with being the bad guy who politely says, I'm sorry, at this time we cannot accommodate that, smiley face.
Right, yeah.
We're working on that for the near future, or things like that. Or so they don't like dealing with clients. They just want to show up and play. They want to get their check and they want to go. Leave. Exactly. And I try to make it as seamless for the musician who I'm sending out there. Like, yes, this weekend I had 3 weddings. I only played one of them. I had a violinist go out. She played it. She took a photo for me. She got her check. She went home. I had a harpist play yesterday in New Cumberland. She came in, played. She had already gotten paid and went home. And it was very seamless. I also protect them. Having a contract with the client, which is something I learned the hard way. You need a contract. You need a deposit, because you need to know that they're really committed.
Right, yeah.
Because there'll be people who will cancel their wedding or downsize their wedding or things like that, and then I've screwed over that musician
for the night
because they said no to XYZ because they had a gig with me. So usually what happens is I give them the musician's the deposit from that couple. Or in the case of, honestly, it doesn't, not just the string world, protection when it comes to like environment stuff, like not making musicians play in extremely cold weather. I've had that problem before, and fortunately my musicians were really understanding. I told them that'll never happen again. And now we have a very binding clause in the contract about like, we will not play in below this degree. We will. I think the other one is coverage, because sometimes people will be like, well, it's not raining, it's only sprinkling. Doesn't matter if a little bit of rain goes on my cellist's instrument. It's a big deal. And I've had people try to say like, well, we'll put out this one like umbrella, and it's like an umbrella for like a table, not actual coverage.
Right.
So now like my contract says the coverage is at the discretion of the musician who's playing. So the fact that I've told musicians, I said, this is what it says. If they try to make you do something that you don't feel comfortable, let me know. I will be the bad guy. Right. I will take the brunt. I will tell them no. You don't have to worry about that at all. And then one of the last things I do is I do not let people make song requests for background music, because it's no one's listening. Exactly. Yeah. So what I do is I say, you can choose classical, you can choose contemporary, you can choose jazz. That's it. For your wedding, we will do whatever you want. For the actual, yesterday.
Yeah, right.
Yesterday's wedding was at Hershey Gardens, and the wedding party walked down to Across the Stars from Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones, which is a gorgeous and I arranged it. Was for violin, cello, and guitar. And then she walked down to a country tune, and then they exited to Viva La Vida. So for your wedding, I will make everything happen. I will, if I have to write the music, for the actual ceremony, I will write the music, I will arrange the music, I will hire someone else to arrange the music. But for background music, let us. It's people are talking. They don't care what you're playing.
For dinners
and cocktail hours, they're just having a good time, and it's to create an aesthetic. That's actually the name of the clause on the contract. It says creating an aesthetic, and it defines what background music. And musicians, when I tell them that, they love that, because they're like, cool. I only have to really work on the music that's going to be in the wedding, and then you just trust me to play whatever I want to for pre-ceremony or cocktail hour.
Right, or I could do the million jazz standards.
Right, just sit down. On the 24th, Yang Han, he's one of my guitar players. He's doing a jazz set. I'm just like, if you want to just work through the real book, that's fine. I trust you. Just make it as long as it sounds good. So
we're kind of running out of time here. I want to ask you a few more questions before we sign off. You're a Christian. What is worship to you?
Ooh. So I do have an answer for this. I just need 1 second in my brain to organize it. So worship, I heard this from a professor, and I'm paraphrasing because I wish I could say it, is when we acknowledge our relationship with God in like seeing the vastness of him, or God.
Yeah.
I don't want to gender God. God has no gender. I just
Right.
So seeing the vastness of him, and then seeing your perspective from like how large God is. So, in some forms for people that is music.
Mm-hmm.
I really only feel like I'm worshiping with music when I sing in a choir, which I don't do very much anymore.
Huh.
There's so many lame Christians who use it as the excuse to not go to church. I worship in nature, man.
Right.
I will say that when I go on a hike and I'm like at the top of the mountain and I'm looking down and I see just like the vastness of the horizon, and I think about like God loves me and I am so tiny compared to this massive thing. Like, it just puts in perspective your relationship with God, that, I am but a speck in this vast universe, and yet he loves me so much that he's willing to send his son to die for our sins. So that's where I think it's wherever you can get to that point where you can put it in perspective and you acknowledge what he's done for you and his love for you, and also, what your part is and what you can do for him, in using your gifts, in different ways.
With all that said, where can people find you?
Okay, my website is cstellemusic.com, so that's CSTELLE music.com. All of the socials are at cstellemusic. Got some gigs coming up literally this afternoon if you're in Harrisburg and you want to see Jolene, a Dolly Parton song cycle. It's going to be a free show at 6 p.m. at Open Stage Harrisburg.
I won't be able to.
So that's going to be, I'm going to be sitting in and playing 2 songs. Rascal Revival is playing at the Englewood on September 29th. It's the last day of September.
Yeah, right.
I know, because I'm seeing a Penn State game the next day on October 1st.
Last weekend, rather.
Yeah, the last weekend. And then the Addams Family is going to be running the last 3 weekends of
30th.
October at Allenberry Playhouse. Come on out. We have a phenomenal cast. We had 60 people audition. I know that's a huge amount for a little community theater. It's going to sound really, really good. I mean, I'm very excited. So, yeah.
And if you want to follow us, you can search us up at The Story, Corey Rosen, CORYROSEN. You can follow us anywhere, Spotify, Music, Apple Music, that is, not Music Apple. Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. If you want to check out all of our upcoming guests this week, we have a lot of guests this week. We have more guests than days this week.
Whoa.
You're the first one to kick it off.
Marathon.
Yeah, we have Ben Brandt and the Soul Miners Union. He's coming on tomorrow. We have Brandon Valentine, the founder of the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame.
Nice.
We have on Tuesday, and then Andrew Pauls later that night. We have Mike Bitts coming on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We have Chris Keeney, a returning guest. He is one of the directors in the Churches of Lancaster that is escaping my name right now. But he's bringing a really cool old instrument called the oud. And I'm excited to see how that works and maybe try to play it. We have Logan Kurtek, a saxophone player. He plays with Bobby Gentillo, and he's from Australia, I've heard. So I'm excited to talk to him. And then the last one to end off this week will be Luther and Barbara Tyree, one of whom the Luther has played music for a long time, and Barbara now makes jewelry out of music equipment. So if you have some sentimental stuff in terms of music, you send them to her. Make bracelets, rings, and other furniture, including as well. Like
furniture.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to them and see how they do that. With all that said, if you want to really support the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, buy our merchandise. That also really definitely helps us a lot. And leave a review for sure.
Reviews are important.
With all that said, I hope you guys have one for us today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.